What's going on, y'all, and welcome on in. Today we're doing our honest review of Edward Elric. Had a full day of pulling, summoning, and then of course a lot of games played with him. So I have plenty of thoughts, builds, artifact suggestions, Mola, all the good stuff we normally do in our reviews. But today's video is going to be super important because there's a lot of thoughts that I want to guide y'all upon my thoughts on pulling for him, how good I think he is overall, and if you should potentially might even have to skip for him if you are super free to play. So make sure you stay tuned till the end. I'm going to go over all that because there is some new news in terms of the next limited coming out after Edward and Roy, and I need to give y'all the full breakdown overall. Okay, let's get into it. Alrighty, y'all, first things first, let me guys show you the build that I was rocking on this Full Metal Alchemist. Here's the build right here. We're going to break it down fully more later, but you guys know the drill already. How did your summons go? Did you pull for them already? If you didn't, make sure you watch this video fully, as I have so much thoughts on what you should do, especially if you're free to play. But if you guys notice here, I did end up pulling 6 copies of Edward Elric, and if you guys want to pull 6 copies too, then you better be using LD Player 9. Now, if you caught my last video, I mentioned why LD Player is so good, but in this video, I want to actually show some in-game features that you guys could be utilizing to help you out right now. So first on the list, boys, is LD's multi-instance player. So LD boasts some of the best performance, not only for low-end PCs, if you don't have a crazy high-end computer, but also for anyone that likes to use multiple instances for re-rolling, alt accounts, etc. Okay, for this next feature, I'm going to hide my camera. When I mentioned I could get you guys more copies of Edward by using LD Player, let me show you guys the in-game key map settings feature, because this is going to make shop refreshing so much easier. It's such a big headache to do in the long run. Any little bit we can get to help is really worth it. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to drag 2 keys here, one at the bottom left, one in the middle. This one we're going to give it a space bar, the other one a control. You can get whatever you like. Just put it all on your left hand or whichever hand you use mainly. And then we're going to click the save button. And now, boys, hopefully we click control and then spacebar to hit that confirm. And this, while it may not seem like a lot in the beginning, really just saves you time overall, and I think it's totally worth it in the long run. Imagine doing this 1,000 times, and this just makes it that much easier. So start using LD Player now by using the links in the description below and in the pinned comment, and let's get back to the video. Alright, where were we? Thank you, by the way, guys, for being cool with those hashtag ads. They really do help me out a lot. Okay, boys, let me go and show you the build we were rocking in all our play tests. So this is gear I pretty much just took from my Apocalypse Ravi, so we can test them super quickly. It is some of my better gear. It is Destruction and Pen set, and we are on plus 15 Mola, so full skill enhancements on everything. I actually did end up giving him a lot of attack. This is not base attack. He is an HP scaling bruiser, but extra attack never hurts. If I had a choice, though, I'd probably scale more of that into defense, but for now I thought it was fine. The health is also very good. It's kind of hard to build him on super high health. The speed, I'm going to touch more on this later when I talk about other builds I want to try, but I do think I want to increase that. For today's testing or yesterday's testing, it was good enough. The crit chance is capped after we talk about the Full Metal Auto Mail. That gives him 10% crit there, so he's at 100 plus, and then the crit damage is good enough on that destruction set. So we definitely have some good gear on him. We definitely have full molas, and we definitely, you know, built him with some damage in mind. So let's go ahead and first talk about what I didn't like about Edward Elric in the matches that I tested him in. The main thing I noticed in the beginning, guys, was just his damage felt very underwhelming. Now, I know the skill 3 is supposed to scale up, and a lot of people predict Edward is supposed to be played in like longer matches where you can scale up that skill 3 either through the use of soul burn or just taking enough turns in a long match. While I agree with that, that may be where he shines in some regards. The fact that he struggles to even kill a squishy unit with his initial skill 3, I think is a big weakness, when a lot of other comparable bruisers would be able to do the same damage, if not a lot more, given the same gearings, given the same gear quality. Now, let's not write Edward off just because of that, because he does bring more to the table than, of course, just damage, but it is something you will notice, I bet you. Guys, report back to me, those of you that already have him. Let me know how you feel about his damage. I do think it is a tad bit low and just feels kind of not great overall. The second thing I really didn't like about Edward is the fire typing. I do kind of wish Smilegate maybe made him earth like a lot of people thought he would be. The fire type, though, makes him extremely weak right now to units like Shu, of course. I'm going to talk about his weaknesses to bruisers. Apocalypse Ravi, he can almost never kill in a late game situation, which is a big issue because both Apocalypse Ravi and Shu, who is an even harder counter to him because of the ice type, plus because she's such a good bruiser, means he has a lot of bad matchups when he fights other tanky units. Now, he has more bad matchups beyond that. Whenever he doesn't fight any debuffers, we almost can bring anything in his spot, and it would probably bring more value, because when his damage is low and he can't proc his skill 2s, yeah, Edward is just not bringing enough to the table. We'll get to the good parts when he fights debuffers later, but the hard matchups that he kind of gets countered by. And guys, one other thing too is he's supposed to have a good matchup into units like Ran and Para. Anything with debuffs, I feel like he does a lot better on. But the fact that he is fire type with no elemental advantage, meaning, or not even just Rimu's element neutrality, where Rimu can hit fire units, the fact that he just struggles against any ice units, period, or when he counters, he has a chance to miss on both Ida and Ran, popular cleavers that he's supposed to be good against, is a little bit of an issue as well into the skill 2 passive, the equivalent exchange. I do kind of wish they gave him some element neutrality or even elemental disadvantage, so he could kind of hit those ice units, at least on the skill 2, maybe even on the skill 3, just a little bit better. I don't think he would be that OP if he at least didn't have a 50-50 shot at missing them, but maybe Smilegate tested and they didn't want that for him. So he has bad matchups. He's hard to pick early. He struggles against some of the bruisers, and whenever we bring him against no debuffs, he's just very, very underwhelming. Now, let's talk about the good stuff about Edward. I poo-pooed on him a lot. And remember, guys, overall, this is just day 1 testing. But I got to give you guys, it's called an honest review for a reason. There were a lot of negative things I found in his kit. Now, the good things, though, guys, I do feel like he can be really, really good. I mentioned in the more longer matches. So if we can stall out a match, if we bring him with enough support, and we can start soul burning, especially when we can soul burn the skill 3 to get that reduced turn cooldown, I feel like Edward really shines. Once he starts getting that second skill 3, the third skill 3, then he can finally start closing out matches, and the damage shows up, you know, when in combination with Frenzy as well. He is more of a late game unit. The problem is getting him there in a lot of games nowadays. I'm sure y'all have encountered, especially against opponents that play very aggressive. If they're super fast, if they just have a lot of damage, it's kind of hard to play a turn 2 style overall. It's not impossible, and I do think, you know, that is my preferred play style. It's still a thing, but just be careful if you guys are trying to go the distance, right? You know, casting 3 skill 3s with Edward, you may struggle to keep him alive if you don't bring enough support. That being said, anytime we fight him against debuffs, I think he really, really shines. Even when it's attackers or debuffers that don't hit him directly, right? Because his skill 2 requires him to be attacked, not just debuffed in general, for him to do his counter attack, the equivalent exchange where he does rise. I think just having that ability to pressure opponents means he's actually really good into units like Conqueror Lilius, Angel of Light Angelica, because they are going to have to hit him eventually. And as long as he doesn't get too overwhelmed with debuffs here and there, remember, we want to bring him with support. His threat of hitting his opponents with debilitating debuffs as well as stripping them is super, super powerful. Now, I actually think he has a decent matchup in Spectre Tenebria as well, because she always hits debuffs with her skill 1, her skill 3, right? She can't always stun Edward, and he does have some reach, or at least enough debuffs to put her in check until he can eventually, you know, handle the Spectre Tenebria. So overall, as long as we can get him in the right matchups and we dodge his hard counters like Shu, sometimes a Ravi, as long as, you know, we need another answer to a Ravi alongside him, I think he can shine a lot. But with all those things considered, guys, if you look at how powerful like Rimu was on release, I just don't want anyone to think, you know, he's going to be an amazing unit out of the box. I think he does require some really good gear, and I'm going to talk about other builds here in just a second. But overall, I think a lot of players are going to have different results, and if your gear is lacking, if you try to force him, like early pick him or bring him into just every match, I think you also will kind of suffer on some matchups here and there. You want to bring him versus debuffs, you want to bring enough support for him so he can go the distance, and he's not he's also not a must-win versus all cleave. I kept seeing that. A lot of people thought he would just destroy all Rands and Paras and Idas, and that's definitely not the case. He does have a good matchup there, depending on your opponent, depending on the full drafts, but it is not an auto win. Just a heads up. All right, guys, enough ranting. Let's go in and talk about his actual other builds I want to try and what I recommend. So for anyone just trying out Edward right now, I would recommend either Destruction or Speed Set, and if you can, get him on Pen Set as well, as he definitely appreciates that extra damage. I do think Pen Set is the best in slot for him, but if you really need to make up, let's say you're not on the Triple S imprint train, guys, or you don't have the artifact, then of course, you know, you can run Crit Set, Immunity Set, whatever other two-piece you want. It's really optional, but I do think Speed and Destruction are best, and Pen Set is the best in slot. Now, I want you guys, if you have tested either counter or lifesteal, let me know your results. I don't think either of those, just from what I saw from Edward in my playtest today, I don't think those will be super great, but I will try. I think I want to try out lifesteal at least, or maybe even Sigurd's Scythe for the artifact selection. But let me know if you guys are trying any out-of-the-box builds. The build I think I want to try next is putting him on speed instead, because he does have high base speed. And I think I want to try either changing the arty or maybe even just bottling it a little bit to get more speed out of that. So speed set, I probably put him around 220, 230. Try to drop some attack for more defense and keep the HP the same. And I think the extra speed will help him cycle faster. And if I can start getting, you know, some soul burns as well, I think I'll feel a lot better about Edward and I can bring enough support, etc. So next build will be speed. Not too much of a difference, but I do want to try that out. Now let's go ahead and talk about Mola priority real quick. So he is a plus 15 unit, guys. He gets damage out of all of this. And if we want him to last on the field, if we're planning to use him in the long run, which most people should be, you know, you kind of just want a plus 15 overall. All of it just gives straight damage. But the skill 3 is probably the most important to get that -1 turn cooldown, as you are going to want to cycle this, especially if you are soul burning it too. So I would definitely get at least plus 3 here. And then after that, max skill 3 first, in my opinion, and then between skill 2 and skill 1, it probably doesn't matter too much. Get the value Molas. Eventually, if you do plan to use Edward a lot, just plus 15 him. It's always worth it for these overall bruisers. Last but not least, guys, let's talk about artifact selection. I do think Full Metal's auto mail is pretty good for him. I said I want to try out Sigurd's Scythe, maybe even Lifesteal Set, depending on one or the other. I do think Draco Plate is solid on him too. But for now, I do think if you guys have nothing else and you do pull the artifact, I think Full Metal's auto mail is pretty good if you can use the extra crit. If you don't need the extra crit, guys, or in a lot of matches, it's very, very hard to scale this up. A lot of times you'll only get 1 skill 2, maybe 2 sometimes, but it's very, I've never even got this even close to getting 4 stacks. So just be aware that the value, overall value from this isn't going to be, you know, its maximum potential. I do think that or Draco Plate or something is pretty good for now. Let me know if y'all are testing anything else in the long run. Last but not least, guys, let's talk about summon priority and who's coming next. Alrighty, boys, let's wrap it up with my final summon thoughts. Is Edward Elric worth your hard-earned bookmarks, especially for free to play? Well, I need to show y'all one thing first. I've been hinting at it throughout this video, but Diane, it kind of was sandwiched in between these patch notes. Hard to find. Diane is actually getting a rerun alongside her skin in 2 weeks. So the skin is out now. On September 8th, in 2 weeks, you'll be able to get Diane again. Now, boys, if you're new or a returning player and you missed out on Diane, you need to do some hard thinking, okay? So we have Edward this week, Roy next week, and in 2 weeks, we have Diane. Now, between the 3, I don't even know how strong Roy's going to be. And remember, 1 day of Edward testing is not enough to really make a call on how good he is. But Diane is absolutely insane already. She's tried and true. She's the real deal. And if I had to guess, if I had to bet on it, Diane's going to be the most powerful of the 3. So even though they're all limiteds, Diane is limited as well. She may not be a collab unit, but she probably won't come back for at least another year unless they do a group banner. So depending on how many pities y'all have saved up, you're going to have to do a little bit of thinking here. And if you want the most bang for your buck, I actually think Diane will be the best choice. That being said, hopefully you guys can summon enough. There is some breaks in between the summons. So if you can pick up 1 copy of Edward, I think he's definitely worth it. He's not as strong as I thought he'd be out of the box, but like I said, we need to do a lot more testing for him. Don't trust anyone that says how strong or weak he is from day 1. It's just first impressions right now. Roy, same thing. We don't know just yet. Diane, though, tried and true. I rank her highest if you can only pick a few. Guys, just start shop refreshing like I showed y'all earlier in the video. Make sure you guys do everything in to get enough bookmarks. Maybe you'll get lucky on Edward. My suggestion, though, for Edward is to wait a little bit longer since he's going to be here for a while. Just wait to see how he pans out. I'll give more news on him. Maybe other streamers, content creators will give some updated info on him. Really break down how he pans out as we do more testing. Right now, I think it's too early to tell. And, you know, you'll have to make a choice. We have 3 limiteds now that you have to pull from, okay? So hold off on Edward if you haven't pulled already. If you already pulled 1 copy, just stay with 1 copy for now. You can always slate him later and start saving for Diane if you don't have her, okay? That's my overall summon thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be playing a ton of Edward this weekend and this week, so stop by the Twitch stream if you can, and I'll let y'all know if I have any more info on Edward's overall rankings, okay? Thank you guys. Hopefully this helped out a little bit. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.